Welcome to the Fear and Greed Business Interview. I'm Sean Aylmer. There are a lot of pretty alarming headlines about the growth of AI, the staggering speed at which the technology is leaping ahead, the risk of something going wrong, even just the IP issues raised when original content is used to train tools like ChatGPT. But what about the benefits? I wanted to take a look at what everyday consumers think about this technology and how it might improve our lives, and of course, what it all means for business. Frank Windolowski is the Executive Vice President, Insights and Data APAC at Capgemini. Frank, welcome to Fear and Greed.
Thank you very much, Sean. It's a pleasure to be here.
So Capgemini has done a big survey on this, 10,000 people across 13 countries. What were you looking for when you went into that exercise?
Yeah, so from our perspective, number one is we know that consumer interest in technology and consumer uptake in technology tends to drive business use of technology. We've seen that over the years. So for us, such a fast-moving, hot topic around generative AI, we wanted to get a feel for where consumers were at and what they were thinking about the technology as sort of our first position of the market survey.
Okay, so what came out of it? What's the verdict? What did consumers think about AI?
Yeah, well, the headline is an amazing number have actually not only been aware, but have used the different types of generative AI technology. So the uptake is just absolutely dramatic, considering, it's less than 6 months old in the sense of really hitting the market with the buzz around ChatGPT. But really fascinating is the actual use, the number of folks that are actually using across all age groups, that are actually using it for different types of purposes right now. So really quite amazing how fast the uptake has been.
Okay, a couple of things in that you talk about across age groups. So it's not something that 18-year-olds are doing only. I mean, I had a look at the survey, and certainly, older Australians, well, older is a very broad term here, so let's say anything over 50 or thereabouts, they're using it as well.
That's correct. And in fact, while we saw some slight variations in the age groups, we actually saw that what we would classify as baby boomers have actually, had more uptake than others. So it's almost kind of the reverse to sort of the going in assumption that younger people would be using it more. But with that said, the variations across the age groups, whether we look at baby boomers or Gen X or millennials or Gen Zs, the truth is the variations weren't huge, but the baby boomers did come out as the ones who have taken it up the most.
Does it surprise you how much trust there is for AI, given all the media that we hear about?
Yeah, I must say this was probably the most surprising thing to me. And maybe I suppose working in the industry, I immediately go to a position of balance, of risk versus reward. But consumers, maybe true to what we've seen in the past, is they rush into it with a benefit as the exciting part, and they forget about the risk. Now, while we see in the report some elements where they're mindful of risks, the excitement around the benefits does seem, in my view, to be the primary focus right now. So I think we all have a responsibility to help educate and help upskill and make more awareness about the risks that are associated, because I do think balance is going to be the most important aspect of making this work for the future.
Stay with me, Frank. We'll be back in a minute. I'm speaking to Frank Windolowski, Executive Vice President, Insights and Data APAC at Capgemini. Now, some of the information out of the survey are sort of the things that people trusted AI on. I mean, the medical opinions was a good one. Now, as I'm saying this, I'm thinking, well, everyone Googles anyway how they are. AI is kind of the next step, so maybe it is a good use, medical opinions. But that, I suppose, that surprised me somewhat, that people are using AI and getting medical opinions and kind of believing it.
Yeah, and I would say there's sort of two sides to this coin. On one hand, folks would assume, just like you have, that medical information is the information we protect most dearly. So we would be less trusting of technology on it. But then on the other hand, the other side of the coin is that it's industries that have an element of difficulty or frustration in the customer experience, the consumer experience, that are actually the ones most ripe for disruption. And we all know, especially in an Australian context, the difficulty in getting access to doctors in rural areas, the ability to sort of get, fast access to medical information can be challenged. And when consumers are struggling with this, they'll naturally go to technology. And admittedly, technology can, come across as more consistent in its opinion. It can sort of feel more data driven. So I think there is a double side to this perspective. People will naturally want to protect their privacy, but they'll naturally also want to get faster information and information they feel comes from a data driven mindset. With that said, I do think it's a sign that, many industries, and I think medical industry will be one of them, will have an element of disruption from this technology. They'll have to grapple with, how do we deal with this type of new ability? How do we incorporate it in the ways of working? And importantly, back to the issue of balance, how do we actually do it in a way that is ethical, that is responsible, is trustworthy? And I think we'll have to recognize that, businesses and governments will have a responsibility to take a leadership position in trust and in, ensuring that there isn't bias, ensuring there isn't issues in regards to ethics that are showing up, because consumers will naturally rush into it. They will have a certain element where they'll be cautious, but I think consumers will be more optimistic. And as enterprises, as governments, I think we all will have a bigger responsibility to educate people and to, design from the start ethical systems and responsible systems.
Okay, so if I'm a business, how do I do that? I get what you're saying, but should I be thinking about it? Because AI is potentially scraping my data, among with much other data, to come up with answers. What do I do?
Yeah, so I would say there's two things that I'm feeling every organization needs to be doing right now. One of those is, investing in talent development. We need to upskill and cross-skill a large number of people to have a stronger knowledge base, a stronger ability to tackle these issues. So we need lots more upskilling and cross-skilling to ensure that we have people who are aware of all the issues at play. Number two is I would encourage everyone to start. Let's not spend 3 months, 6 months, 9 months analyzing the problem, because experimentation becomes critical in learning. And this technology is evolving very rapidly. So trying to get a handle on all of the rights and wrongs immediately become problematic. And I think experimenting with technology straight away allows organizations to do just that, accelerate the learning aspect, understanding particularly how it impacts their organization, their customers, their employees, because these aren't going to be broad-based, solutions that, the same answer applies within, every industry and every organization. There are going to need to be very tailored aspects within each entity. So my encouragement is start, because we all have to be on a journey to learn, and separately really invest heavily in talent and skills, because we need more knowledge about how this new technology works.
Okay, now I have a side hustle, Frank. I have a little content agency, and when you run a content agency and something like AI comes, you have a choice. You can either think, we're in trouble, or you can embrace it. And that's particularly my business partner, Simon Anderson, has embraced it. It is quite remarkable how much easier our life has become because we have embraced it. It's not to say, we still have to do the writing and all that sort of stuff, but in terms of ideas, in terms of thought starters, in terms of kind of the parameters that we work within, AI is incredibly useful. The point of telling that story is that I suppose I was scared of it, but because my business partner said, this is going to help us. If you take that approach, it can be very beneficial.
Yeah, and I'm completely with you on this topic. I'm an optimistic by nature, and I tend to lean into these things, and I believe in the human spirit, and I actually think you're spot on. These things will make our lives better. They will allow us to be more creative. They will allow us to invent new products. They will allow us to invent new services that will make citizens' lives more beneficial throughout the world, throughout different aspects of society. I think this is going to be a tool that makes us much more powerful as a society, as humans, And I sort of often think, the calculator was invented many years ago and gave a huge advantage to everyone who was working with numbers, and eventually led into very logical parts of organizations around processes and procedures that have been benefited tremendously with those types of technologies based on if-then statements, so to speak. And I think now we have a technology that helps the creative side of the world. And I think it's going to be that important. It's going to really lift up the creative aspects of what we do as people and make us so much better and stronger in those areas.
So where, in terms of great progresses in science, where's AI rate?
I mean, I often sort of feel that AI is going to really cause the next disruption in our industry. It's going to really allow us to sort of go forward, not just with a digital business, but with an intelligent digital business. It's going to allow us effectively an internet, so to speak, that has cognitive abilities throughout. And I think that will actually long term be very disruptive and very beneficial for many enterprises, many governments, and back to the point, benefit us as people, us as society, and from a government's lens in terms of a citizenship. So I think it will be really impactful. It's at that sort of level that will cause major disruption, and I think it will be disruption for good. So from my mindset, this is where it is. It's a major disruptive force, and I'm looking forward to the excitement of things we can do with it. But I am going in with that balanced point of view, which says, look, we've got to be careful. We've got to start with an ethical foundation. We have to start with a responsible point of view, so that we're building it in the spirit of the future that we all believe in terms of a better society.
Frank, thank you for talking to Fear and Greed.
Thank you very much, Sean. It's been a pleasure being with you.
That was Frank Windolowski, Executive Vice President, Insights and Data APAC at Capgemini. This is the Fear and Greed Business Interview. Join us every morning for the full episode of Fear and Greed, Australia's best business podcast. I'm Sean Aylmer. Enjoy your day.